Hello, this is Steve Bossert here, and talking to you about some of the things that we discussed at our coffee on March 10th. I know some of the parents could not be there, and they've expressed interest in hearing what the material was, and so put the screencast together to answer maybe some of those questions, just to give you an idea what was discussed. What you see in front of you is a copy of the schedule form that you're going to see at your conference on March 26th and March 27th. So your advisor at this point probably has contacted you about attending a conference with your student and you to discuss scheduling and sign the scheduling form. And so our form looks like this. We're really looking at the third column, or the grade 8 column, and when you get the form, it will have a math class, the recommended math class, listed in here for you: history, English, science, and their world language, or if they are a daily tutorial support student in lieu of a language, that would appear right there. At the end of Goal 2, which happened on March 6th, and now teachers have gathered and recorded all of their grades and comments. And so this week they're compiling a list of recommendations that they go through departmental criteria and then meet with department chairs to discuss each student individually, their achievements for the year. Other indicators could be their ERB scores and other factors. In mathematics in the 7th grade, all the students take an algebra readiness test that are in pre-algebra, and that, along with their grade in pre-algebra, determines the recommendation for placement for 8th grade. In 8th grade math, there are three basic main options, I should say. Students in pre-algebra that have mastered pre-algebra material, and the departmental guideline of mastering pre-algebra material is 85. So if they have an 85% in pre-algebra, as their test average and their grade average. And normally the grade average is a few points higher due to participation and homework, notebooks, things like that, than a test average. So one of the main indicators is what is their success rate on the assessments. And so looking at an 85% rate for success as an average in pre-algebra. If they have mastered pre-algebra, their algebra readiness test score is within the range of algebra students, which is typically between 43 and 54 points on that algebra readiness test. Then they get a recommendation for Algebra 1, which is a high school level class. Students that complete Algebra 1 in 8th grade will get a high school level credit. All right, they will not, the grade doesn't transfer, but they will get one math credit. So in theory, they could possibly take only 3 math classes in high school after Algebra 1 to complete their graduation requirement, although at Country Day, that doesn't happen. We go through and take, almost everyone takes 4 years of mathematics in the high school. Students that have not mastered pre-algebra, for one reason or another, they're not ready to take that high school level class as an 8th grader, which certainly happens. Everybody is developmental and they're at their own pace, and sometimes you have to see the math concepts and apply them and attempt to apply them a few different times in order to really be successful in mastery. Those students would take the grade 8 math class, which is a 8th grade level math class, and it reinforces pre-algebra concepts and introduces Algebra 1 and geometry concepts as well. Students that are in an honors pre-algebra class have to maintain a 90 test average and grade average in order to be recommended for an honors algebra 1 class. The honors algebra 1 class is taught as a high school level honors course. It is a challenging course, especially for 8th graders. But students that have maintained an A in the honors course are certainly recommended for that. A student moving, if they want to move from a regular class to an honors class, because of the difference in expectation, they not only have to have mastered pre-algebra, but they really have had to master it at a high level. They need to maintain a 95% test average in the regular pre-algebra class in order to be recommended to go from a regular to an honors class. English has also standards for honors English, similar an A in an honors English 7th grade class to maintain standing in the 8th grade honors class, and from the regular English class to the honors English class, the requirements are mid-90s, and also the recommendation comes from their English teacher, how they're ability to write and support details from literature. Again, you can see your English teacher for details on that. In science, in 8th grade, most of the students will take our 8th grade science class, which is an earth science class, and kind of continues on from 7th grade science with labs and inquiry, but learning about the world around us, the earth and atmospheres and things like that. For some students, they may be they may be recommended to take the 8th grade chemistry class, and it is for students that have high math and science, demonstrate high math and science aptitude, and the recommendation for that is, again, a 94 and above test and science average and grade, as well as similar scores in mathematics or an A from an honors math class. Push for that 8th grade chemistry class. Those students will still end up taking, a lot of them will end up taking honors chem as a 10th grader. And from our high school, our honors chemistry teachers have told us that if the student does take that class, typically for about the first 6 weeks of the honors chem class as 10th graders, they do have a bit of an advantage because they've seen a lot of things and they have experience with the chemistry concepts. But typically they say after about 6 weeks, which is about 2/3 of the way through the first marking period, that the playing field completely levels out. The others kind of catch up, and it's not a distinct advantage. So certainly, if your student is not recommended for it, I would definitely not advise pushing to try to get into a chemistry class ahead of the time when they certainly have the option to do that as a 10th grader. One advantage of the course, though, is it is taught as an honors level high school class, and so if your student is a high achieving student or is interested in that environment, it is an advantage of that course. It will put the students under pressure as they would as a high school level honors course. It's not a high school credit. They still take honors chem as a 10th grader, or chemistry as a regular chemistry as a 10th grader. So the advantage is not that you're taking it and getting it out of the way. The advantage is you're kind of putting yourself in a high pressure environment. But again, it's a very difficult course. Okay, moving into from the purple to the blue section here. Blue section is required enrichment. There are 3 classes, 1 goal each. And the first class, again, they could be in any order: media awareness, service learning class, and a real life class. Media awareness deals with students dealing with the culture, the media culture, how television, videos, music, all these things, the messages that they send, how they can be manipulated, and being learning that for the students to become critical consumers of media information, and thinking about how corporations use messages that they send in order to get across what they're trying to sell, and really helping students become better consumers of information in this media age. The service learning class, they do several different service projects and give to the community around them. One of the main ones is the students write and create their own children's story and create the actual physical book and go to a local elementary school and read it to the students on a day, and it's a pretty great experience. The real life class is similar to the one in 7th grade in that it is health and wellness issues that are age appropriate for our 8th graders. The bottom row would not be for our students because if you're listening to this, you're not a new student next year, so you wouldn't see this bottom line on your sheet. And finally, we get down to the elective choices in green and orange. And essentially, you have 1.5 electives. You're in orange down here, your year-long choices. If you are a band or orchestra member or choir member, those would be recommended for that from your existing teacher, and that would be your year-long elective choice. And then you would be matched up with a half-year elective that goes along with the 8th grade STEAM class. And the STEAM class, again, as they did in 7th grade, is science, technology, engineering, art, and math, design and engineering and thinking, and how math and science and art, all those things are working together. And they would go with a half-year elective. Students could choose art or dance or PE or speech and drama. So if the student is not in a music and they elect an all-year PE, they can't also choose a half-year PE. You can only have one. You can't have 1.5 of the same elective. Same thing. So if you choose all-year dance, you can't also be in the half-year dance. If you choose all-year art, you can't choose also half-year art. So depending on if your student is involved in a music, performing art, then they could pick any of these 4 electives in green. If they're not involved in a performing art, then they could pick any one of these at the bottom 4, or a second language. That would have to get departmental world language approval if your student wanted to do that. And then they would just pick a different half-year elective. So that pretty much sets up the schedule choices for 8th grade. The other couple discussion items that we had was the sport requirement. In 8th grade, there's a 2-sport requirement, although, again, taking all-year PE or all-year dance could fulfill one of those 2 required points. Also, if the student is involved in the middle school musical next year, that could take the place of one of those points. They'd still have to also participate in one team sport here at Country Day. There was a discussion about outside of school sport credit, and typically, students that take outside of school sports do not receive credit for those. There is an exemption if the student is nationally ranked, participates in and is recognized as a national caliber athlete. And if you are interested in getting that distinction, then you need to contact Mr. Dan Luft in the athletics department, and he will, our athletic director, and he will proceed you with that process. And one last item, it would be for um, the upcoming Boston trip. Mr. Grubaugh, let's see if I can send an email earlier in March talking about introducing the trip instead of Washington, D.C. next year, going to Boston. Boston fits much better within our curriculum-wise for the 8th grade history and really allows us to do a lot of interdisciplinary and epic, experiential, participatory, image-rich, and connected learning. And so a lot of the disciplines have kind of gotten together and really making this trip an outstanding one that will be terrific for the students. There's information was sent in an email. At the bottom of that, talking about registering for the trip, the deposit, $350 deposit, was due on March 15th. So if you are interested in going, I suggest you contact Mr. Grubaugh or Mr. Duras, or go to that email that Mr. Grubaugh had sent and click to register your student. So I hope that this gives you a little bit of information about the schedule. Again, you can talk to your student's advisor for information about the schedule and conference upcoming next week. You should get a copy of the recommendations that the teachers made, based on your child's results from this year and their experience with them. Probably Monday and Tuesday next week, as the recommendations are finalized and scheduling forms are printed. So you should get that ahead of time prior to the conference, so you can kind of look it over, talk it over at home, and then come to the conference and be able to make your selections. My phone number is 248-430-3666 if you have questions, or you could call. You could email me. It's sbossert@dcds.edu. Thanks very much. I appreciate your attention, and go Jackets.